Hello, hello, everybody. Happy day getting fubbed up with Bridget. Give everybody just a couple of moments here to log on since it's just freshly 3 o'clock. For people who are already here, this is going to be recorded. If you need to jump off earlier, if you have anybody on your team that you would like to share it with, then that'll be sent out after the recording processes, probably by sometime tomorrow. We'll make sure that it gets over to you guys. Excellent, excellent. Cool beans. Awesome. It's been about a minute now, so I'll just go ahead and start getting into everything for us. So thank you guys for joining us for another month of Getting Fubbed Up with Bridget. Today is a pretty cool topic, talking about cleaning up our databases and setting ourselves up for success for the new year. I know this is crunch time. We all want to have a really great, successful Q1. And one of the best ways to do that is to have an organized system in CRM and make sure that we've got SOPs in place to implement and help hold everybody accountable. So we will have a couple of resources that we'll also be sharing out with you guys after with the recording. So anybody who registered for this is going to get an automatic email of that along with this roadmap that we'll be showing. So just going to dive right in. So cleaning up your CRM can definitely be daunting. It's a little scary. There's a lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of things going on. If you're working at a high level with automations and things like that, it's, a little frightening to think that things could break. We definitely don't want that to happen. So we've created this general roadmap for you guys to be able to kind of lay out the blueprint of where you see there's cracks in your system and what you're trying to improve. So we really take it through all of the different things. We've got some recommended stages here, but obviously you guys use what you want. So first and foremost, making sure that you have your company settings up to date. No, I know that it sounds silly, like, oh, of course, why wouldn't I have my company stuff up in there? But you definitely want to be mindful because if you go to admin and then down to company here, these settings here are really, really valuable. So your company name here pulls in from different merge codes. It gets included in some batch emails and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that it's accurate and not something a little bit funky. Like this office hours with Lee, it's all one word, it's all lowercase. So that going out in an email doesn't look that great. So just making sure that all of this stuff is spick and span. And especially, guys, these office hours down here can tend to get neglected. But as you can see here, it specifies the days and the times where you guys can receive incoming calls to your team inbox, as well as I'm almost certain that those automatic reminder emails and stuff for appointments are also going to be going out based off of the certain times that you have set up. So want to just make sure that everything's really organized and that, you're representing who you are. So we've got that laid out for you. And then coming up with the stages that you want to use. So like I said, we've got some filler recommended ones in here. You guys use what you want, what makes sense for your system. We always recommend keeping things a little bit more simple, a little bit more streamlined. The more stages that you have, the less likely your agents are going to be to actually be using them the way that they need to be used. So really, step one with getting this stuff all cleaned up is definitely going to be defining and coming up with really good, solid stages and making sure that they're written down, which is why this document is going to be super valuable to help you guys be able to create some SOP documents, maybe some cheat sheets and things like that, once you've built that system that you actually want to create. We have this chart down here so that based off of the stages that you have currently in your system and the new definitions of the stages of what you guys are wanting to implement, you can kind of lay it all out. Okay, here's what we have, but these stages are going to need to have a new home once you're making all of these cleanups. So where are they going to go? How are we going to do this? So we've kind of simplified it, made this little table here so you guys can come in and plug in what your current stages are based off of the new stages that you guys are going to want to start implementing, and be able to just cross-reference and easily have a visual. Okay, so we're going to go in, we're not going to willy-nilly it, we're not going to do anything crazy, we're going to change the stages, but we have a plan for doing that. And then right here we have a little recommendation. Always be making sure that you're tagging, hey, we moved it from the stage that it was in before to this new stage, especially the bigger your team is. That way, if agents start going in cahoots and they're like, oh my gosh, you guys are changing everything. Where did my stage go? All my favorite people were in X stage. Have no fear. Everybody calm down. Let's take a breath. It's going to be all right. You can search moved from that stage name, and then you'll be able to bring up all of those people on your people filters. So really easy, simple way to still keep things organized and to not keep anybody out of the loop. Custom fields. I think we all know all too well how crazy custom fields can get sometimes, especially if you, depending on your tech stack, if you've got Real Scout, if you've got Ylopo, if you've got Boomtown imports, things can get a little bit crazy. And we definitely want meaningful custom fields that actually are helpful instead of just clogging up the database. So this is kind of another area here where you can go in, write out what you've got, and then really take into consideration, kind of do some cross-referencing, go into these custom fields. So if you go to your admin and custom fields, it'll show you how many people are in whatever custom field you have. So if you have a whole bunch of zeros and people not using that custom field, it's just making more junk, and it's time to trim that fat and just get those ones right on out of there and just use the ones that are actually going to be useful for you guys and for your company and the success for, making things organized. And then any other ones. This is also a really great document if you have like a strong operations team or a director of operations, and you guys are all kind of collaborating. Maybe you have some head agents who really use the follow-up boss system really well, so it's important for you to have their input. It's a really great way to lay everything out and be able to also collaborate on the changes that are going to happen in the system to make sure that they make sense for everybody. And then we get down into the smart lists. So we always start with stages and we always start with smart lists because we kind of think of those two major things as the foundation of your whole system. So if you have the right stages, then it's going to help drive those right smart lists. And that's really going to be what we like to think of as your agents day-to-day within the system. So you have, all these great new stages, all these great new things. Now the agent gets in there and they're like, okay, cool, great. I have all of these really great things, but what the heck am I supposed to do? Well, you go and you work your smart lists. So you set those up in the way that it's what we like to call in this Amplified Solutions house is smart list 0. So really your goal, and this is just a fake dummy account. So this is all, not really accurately how we would probably have it. Not that these are bad. These are great too, but just as a disclaimer. So really you want to go in and you want to zero out those lists for the day. Those people are populated on those lists based off of the filter criteria that you guys have created to show, hey, this is a person that you haven't talked to in X amount of time based off of how you've staged them. It's time for you to reach out. So that's really the way that we've designed it. So you go in and just zero out these people for the day, and there you go, bada bing, bada boom. You reached out to everybody that you need to, and you can just carry on doing other important things like setting up more showings and maybe going on inspections and things like that. One thing about them, how you get them off is going to be that last communication. And so a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, if I have a nurture stage and I've got them on a nurture action plan, I don't want them to go off the list. Don't worry. Those people are still going to populate on your smart list. The last communication is really only just for a personal one-to-one communication. So a personal text, a personal email, or a personal phone call. So action plans, batch emails, any sort of marketing stuff, if you're using listing alerts or push listings, anything like that, it's not going to get people off of those lists. They'll still be there because these are really for you guys to make personal calls. Action plans are phenomenal. They're really great as a default to make your name, in front of people's eyes and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, an action plan is not selling a home. An actual agent with the knowledge and experience is going to be. So really want to make sure that we're getting those phone calls in. So we've got, again, a couple of different suggested ones, but this is an opportunity for you guys to come in and, okay, we like this one, we don't like this one, or make some tweaks. We want different timelines from here, but we do have some basic outlines here for you guys to be able to use if you're just kind of stuck, don't really know what these lists should really be looking like. You can use these as a reference. And then you can see the theme here of having the old stuff written down and then seeing where the new stuff is going to go. So this is where you can kind of visualize, hey, here's the smart list that we're using. Let's talk about how we're really using them. Do we want to keep this as a smart list? Is it useful? Is anybody using this as a smart list? And just kind of go in one by one and say, all right, this one seems like a keeper, or this one is useless. Let's just get it right on out of here. And for some reason, we've found that some people have a fear that if you delete a smart list, that it somehow is going to delete those contacts or that data. It's not going to. It's just going to take out them from that list because they're not part of the filtered criteria that you have here. All those people are still in your database unless I think only the owner can fully delete somebody. So when you're going into your managed lists, we always recommend having them in numerical order so that your agents can go in and put them in the order that you've set up and how you want their flow to look like. So you can create these lists for agents and, that's all great and well, but they're going to be in different orders, especially if they've made some of their own lists. So you're really going to want to try to get them to come in here and empower them to put them in that numerical order of the system that you're trying to set up and create for them. Now we get into a little bit more of the action type items, automations and stuff like that. Once you have a really good, secure way for how you're going to be doing those stages in those smart lists. I also definitely recommend, we don't have it on here, but taking into consideration your tags. Tags are a big overhaul. That's probably going to be the biggest time consumer of your whole overflow and database. However, Follow Up Boss did do something pretty nifty recently. If any of you guys have seen this beautiful new rollout, they've completely reorganized and restructured the way that the tags are appearing right here in this tags column. So you can really get a better view of, hey, who's actually using this as a tag? What do we have as duplicates? Do you have buyer, buyers, hashtag buyer? Those are all the same thing. We don't want to have too many tags. We definitely want to keep things nice and trim and slim and straight to the point. Unfortunately, there are no barriers for agents of not having the ability to create their own tags right now, which is a blessing and a curse, that's for sure. But just making sure that you're really setting the standard when it comes to tags for your team. Hey, make sure that you're searching these tags before you're just going in there and you're creating something. So like working with another agent, has a realtor, has a real estate agent. Make sure that you guys are really having down on the document when you create those SOPs or the cheat sheet or handbook or whatever you choose to do after you make this beautiful, really efficient new build out for your team. Like, hey, this is a tag that we're going to be using. If you want to create a new tag, then you need to talk to an admin person about it, or it has to actually make sense. Everybody has different standards, but we typically try to recommend, hey, take it to somebody who's an admin and see if there may be a tag that you don't realize for that, or if they find that it's going to be useful that other people are going to use, then you can go ahead and get it in there. So now with the action plans, this is kind of where, certain tags are going to help set off different action plans and stuff. So if you are one of those people who has a buyer, buyers, hashtag buyer, parenthesis, S, parenthesis, all that kind of crazy stuff, when you set up your automations, you're going to have to make sure that all of those different tags are going to help to drive the buyer action plan. So that's why it's also super important if somebody's adding in new tags and then they're like, oh my gosh, my nurture buyer plan didn't go off. What the heck happened? This is crazy. Well, because you just made up a random new tag and the system's not recognizing that as the tag to be able to set off that action plan. And we want these action plans to be going out because they're really important. So doing a little bit of an audit about what your action plans are they working? Are they doing well? You can come into the action plan section here. We'll just do all action plans. And you do get some reporting here on, how your plans are actually performing. How many are running on that already? Do you have good engagement? How many have gone through? So if you have like 101 that have been completed, this is just a birthday automation, but for sake of argument, if you have 101 that have completed and your engagement's like 0%, 10%, probably need to do some editing on that action plan. So you can go through and see that. And then also based off of those action plans, you can kind of see what email templates you have inside the plan and pinpoint, hey, where's the issue here? What are the templates going out that seem to be causing the most issues? Where are we not getting clicks? Where are we not getting opens? What is working? When are people subscribe, or when are people sending replies? Is there an area specifically throughout that plan where we see a heavy amount of unsubscribes? So it doesn't always mean that you need to change the whole entire plan. It could just be a couple of templates involved in that plan that aren't getting you that solid engagement that you're looking for. And then kind of coming down, hey, here's what we have, here's what's working, here's what not. Are there any new plans that we need to come up with? Are there any other scenarios or situations where we would find where something would be useful? Maybe you have a certain kind of lead source that you really want to target people and make it super specific and a lot more curated to what they were actually looking at. So this will give you kind of a bird's eye view to say, hey, here's what we're working with. Here's where we need to improve. And action plans don't need to be written in a night, guys. Of course, it's always going to be really important. We want those in place, but you want to do them right. So take your time, make sure you're having the right content in them, and make sure that they're sounding like they're coming from your company. Setting up pawns. I love pawns. All right, you can use pawns for anything in the system and it's awesome. So if you've got a super huge database and one of your things is like, I've got all of these leads assigned to me, it's insanity. I don't need to have 1,000+ people assigned to me. You're not going to talk to 1,000 people. That's insanity. So really a best practice that we've seen is just go in here. Anybody who was created more than a year ago, and this is completely whatever timeframes you want to do. If you want to do 6 months, however aggressive you want to be about it, that's all on you. But just kind of like as a bare minimum, if you go in here, anybody who was created more than a year ago and their communication is also more than a year ago, there we go. Again, this is dummy data. So if you've got all of these people, hey, they've been in your system for, and we're in months here. They've been in your system for over a year and you haven't even talked to them in a whole entire year. You don't need that person assigned to you. You just go ahead, get those people into the pond. Let somebody else go in there and try to prospect and try to mine through some of those old people. You've already tried. Obviously, there wasn't a success there. Maybe it fell on you. You weren't using the system in the best way at that time, so you didn't ever get a hold of them. But get them into an area like a pond where anybody else on your team can go in and try to prospect those people. It is going to make your smart list look a lot smaller than they are if you've got 500+ people in your nurtures that you're trying to reach out to monthly. No way. Get those people over into the pond. That way they're in their own little hub. They're not junking up your personal database. And it really gives that focus of you reaching out to people who you need to be reaching out to. So we see ponds used for many, many different things. Again, going with the theme here, seeing what you've got, what you need, what you don't. Couple of different suggestions. I mean, a go fishing, just like a general pond is always really great. A do not contact. A lot of states are different, but if somebody asks you to not contact them, and if anything accidentally slips out to them, a marketing or anything like that, you can get fined. It's a thing. So you could just put them in their own little pond. Only admin people can have access to that. Agents can't even see or know that those people are in the database. And you don't have to worry about anything weird going out to those guys that's going to hurt your reputation. Vendors, this is a really cool use case for ones too, especially if you guys have a bunch of different like photographers or cleaning people, roofers, contractors, different stuff like that, where if something happens, your agent can just go dip into the pond, search for tag a photographer, maybe somebody canceled last minute on them, and then they'll be able to go in and find somebody really easily and simply. And it also prevents duplicates in the system. The only area where there may be a little bit of hesitancy in the vendor scope of people, things like lawyers and stuff like that, if you're having, you know, personal private conversations and things like that with people, if they are in the vendor pond, then any agent can read the dialogue that's in those emails and stuff like that. So that's definitely something to be mindful of who you are including in your vendor pond. And then agents outside of your organization. So maybe if you guys are really big on recruiting, or if you guys are working with a lot of the same consistent agents and stuff, and you don't want to have a whole bunch of duplicates in there, you can have a section for that too. We see people even use it as their lead flow distribution. If people are coming in, instead of going directly to one person, you can, or to a group because the groups are just first to claim or round robin. So if you've got hungry agents that are just in there claiming everything all the time, but not doing anything about it, and you're like, oh, geez Louise, Chris is in here, she's claiming everything again, she's not doing what she needs to do. Or if you've got round robiners, where maybe people aren't as active, they haven't caught into it, those are a lot of missed opportunities for you guys. But if you put them into a pond, a new lead pond, anybody can have action or access to, it kind of gives a wide open, hey, you guys can go in here and prospect. We've seen people tier it too. So maybe if you're like, well, I got $1 million homes coming in here and I've got a brand new agent, I don't really think that they should have the opportunity to be going there and picking at people who are in the $1 million range. You can tier them. You can set them up in different ways. So if it's okay, less than 500K, these certain people will go into this pond. If it's more than that. So there's a bunch of different options for doing stuff like that too. And so laying out your guys' automations too. This is huge. What automations, what would you like to see? So maybe you come up with an idea. You're like, oh, wow, it'd be really cool if we could do this and that. Get it down on paper. You never know. Maybe you can. Sometimes you need to think about it. And then once you see it, you can come in here and you could try to, you know, it's almost like a puzzle, like a fun little puzzle. You can come in here, you could try to put the pieces together and see if you can make that automation work for you. Again, a couple of different suggestions, pausing other action plans, people who are, maybe you do take a big chunk of those people and you throw them in the pond and you're like, oh no, why did I do that? How am I supposed to know if they ever come back around? Well, you can set up different automations for if somebody does go active again and be able to, you know, get them somewhere. If they've been in there for that long of a time, hey, get this to a specific agent, get this to a group. Shoot, have a whole nother pond for people who are active in your general pond. So a bunch of stuff that you can do there. And then easy ways for, you know, getting people in that do not contact pond. Add that tag, get them right in that pond, get them off the agent's radar so nothing weird happens. Couple of cool things that you can do is some deal automations that you can explore as well. You can change the deal stage and it can change the actual contact stage. Unfortunately, you can't take the contact stage and change somebody to say pending or closed and have that change the actual deal card stage, but you can do vice versa, which is still, if you guys are consistent with using your deals and have those organized really well, you know, it's ultimately one less thing for the agent to have to think about doing and changing. Getting your deals really organized and streamlined. Some of you guys may have some different tech stacks like a CSU or a Brokerment or anything along those lines. You don't necessarily have the luxury of really being able to, you know, dial in some different specific deal stages within Follow Up Boss because you want that sync to work properly. But if you're just using a spreadsheet or a pencil and paper and tracking all of your deals, I mean, it's pretty silly when you have a pretty easy transaction software right here in this deals area that'll help you stay a little bit more organized and stay on top of your pipeline. And the deals attached to the contacts. So if you have multiple deals with somebody, they're all going to live right there for you. And I know we mentioned agents outside. If you're doing recruiting or anything like that, there's a bunch of different cool ways that you can use deals too. So if you've got rentals, if you want to track your referrals, if you want to track your recruiting and your meetings, retention, all that is good, fun stuff. So laying all that out, making sure that you have your Follow Up Boss Pixel installed. If you don't, this is more so just a reminder because Pixel is a game changer. Having those cookied events of what people are doing on your website and seeing the homes that they're looking at and how many times they've looked at it is just so incredible for your prospecting and setting you up for really awesome phone conversations when you're going out there and calling through your smart lists. And appointments. So making sure that you have really solid appointment types and appointment outcomes so that you guys can be kind of tracking, especially if you have multiple lead sources, you know, really seeing what the outcomes are. So if you've got a whole bunch of Zillow people and you're making sure that your agents, again, this is going to be part of the SOPs process, making sure that they're going in and they're changing those outcomes. But say you've got a whole bunch of Zillows and they all end up being working with buyers, like that's awesome. We're still going to continue to pay for that lead source because we're getting a lot of success with it. But if you have some other sources that are coming in, maybe a whole bunch of no-shows happening, or people, you know, you can make whatever outcomes you want. So you'd be able to go and see in the reporting, hey, here's all of the upcoming appointments that we have. Here's what type they are. Here's our outcome. And then here's the source that they came from. I don't know if a lot of people know that you can see this, but it's really, really awesome. And it's really great for different team lead owners and ops people and stuff to really see where their money is going and if it's adding value or not. So those are really going to be the biggest main things here about what's valuable, at least on the forefront, to really get organized, set yourselves up for a really super successful Q1, make sure everything is streamlined. And again, like I said, I mean, you could even potentially take this document and turn it into your SOPs. Having everything written down and written out so you don't forget what you did because you took the steps before to prepare is going to be super beneficial for getting the point across to your agents. Hey, here's our expectations. These are the SOPs. This is the way, if you want to be working in Follow Up Boss, if you want to get, you know, team generated leads and stuff like that from us, then you got to use the system. One more quick thing that I did want to note with these communications, you know, I said it's personal phone calls one-to-one. That's really where having the Follow Up Boss dialer phone number is going to add a whole bunch of value because it's going to log that information for you. So if you're not using that phone number, you will have to come in and manually log each phone call. You can log text as phone calls too, just so that you can get that communication across. But really using that Follow Up Boss phone number is going to be the most efficient way to keep those smart lists dialed in and at zero as they should be. I see a couple little things that popped up in the chat. I'm going to peep in here real quick, see if we have any questions that I can help answer. I know Chris, my girl Chris, has been in here working away, helping things out, but let's see if there's anything I missed. Yes, Doug, we will definitely be getting this out to you. Pawns and smart list. All right, looks like Chris handled that one for us. So yeah, guys, if you do have any other additional questions, definitely happy for you guys to put them in that Q&A or in the chat. I can address any other questions you have. yeah, but here's to a happy, healthy 2024, getting organized, staying organized. I can't stress enough how important it's going to be for you guys to have those SOP documents and for everything to be outlined to set the expectations. Because, if you don't keep the agents accountable, then unfortunately, you're going to find yourself 1 year from now back in another webinar at the end of the year trying to figure out how to clean up and organize your database. But staying consistent, keeping things simple, don't overwhelm anything, and just making sure everybody's held accountable. Dave says he uses Ylopo. Do you know if changing the names of my lead stages will affect Raya? That's a really awesome question. And the answer is yes, but it's a super simple fix. If you reach out to your CSM, or if you even reach out to Ylopo support, you can ask them for a screenshot of your Raya settings, and they'll show you what stages you have whitelisted or blacklisted. And then you'll be able to tell them, hey, make sure that you have Raya running on new leads or nurture, whichever ones you want them running on. And they're usually pretty quick about that, and they can make the changes pretty instantly. So yeah, if you are doing some crazy stage changes and stuff, that's a good point, Dave. I'm glad you said that. Make sure that you're checking in with a couple of your other tech stacks, Raya, Call Action, and people like that to make sure that they kind of know what the new expectations are going to be. Oh, thank you, Julia. That was very kind. Appreciate that. Dave says, joined a while ago. We were showing stages. Can you show them again? Yeah, I can go ahead and show you. So since you joined a little bit late, we are going to be sending this recording out as well as this document for you guys. So we're going to leave all of these suggestions and stuff like here on here for you. So just go ahead and, if you wanted to screenshot this, you're more than welcome to right now. But as I said, you guys will definitely be getting this document. You'll be able to copy it, edit it, make your own beautiful follow-up boss yourself. Excited for y'all. Alrighty, you guys. If there's nothing else, then I will give everybody else a little bit more time back in their day. I really appreciate you guys all joining me. These have been a lot of fun the past couple of months that we've been doing definitely awesome new things to come in Q1 and all of 2024 with the Amplified Solutions family. Thank you guys so much for joining in, and everybody have a very happy holiday and be safe out there. Thanks, y'all.